Hey, hello everyone. This is Mrs. Demboya, and today I'm going to go over a very important thing in my classroom, which is grading. I do grading very, very differently than most other teachers that you have had before. So it is important for both students and guardians to understand how grading works in my classroom and what the purpose of that different grading is. So I use mastery-based grading. Okay. That is what I use in my classroom, and it's to help all of my students do better. All right. Um, it's better for the students, and I've done this for several years now. So the problem is that currently the systems that you're used to letter grades, A, B, C, D, and that goes with just objectively not gonna meet what you're wanting. I'm sorry. Let me take a moment. So what it means is that I have students that get so caught up on being an A student, but they haven't actually mastered any of the content or the standards. I see several times in the past, I can look at grades from students, just in their transcripts, and they could be straight A students, but then when you look at their state tests, the state test scores are not reflective that that is a straight A student. There's a disconnect there. So what I'm looking to do is I don't care about you being an A student. I care about you being a student that has mastered the content that I'm teaching. That's how I know I did a good job, because I could give anybody an A. There are some teachers that do that. Okay. I'm sure we all at some point in our lives had one teacher that just didn't want to deal with it. And you showed up and you were breathing, you got an A, right? I don't do that because I don't think it's fair for students, and it doesn't set them up for success. It doesn't teach them how to accept failure and to build off of failure. And a lot of times the ABCDFs, it creates a lot of anxiety with students who are so focused over getting a specific grade and not necessarily focused on getting better at that skill. So that is why I use my current grading system instead. It helps alleviate that anxiety for students, and it helps me assess them better and find out exactly what it is that they need help with. So I like to use the analogy that it is like riding a bike. Okay. So if you get a distinguished in my class, I'm going to put a 99. Okay. And this is just, I don't think we need to deal with 81s, 83s, 72s, 61s. I'm not dealing with all of that. I think it takes a lot more time, and it makes it more subjective to the teacher. Like, oh, do I give this extra point to make it an 84 instead of an 83? Um, so instead, a 99 is distinguished. Okay, it means you can confidently ride without training wheels. You can do tricks, mountain biking, off-roading, all that good stuff. So when we think about that in relation to ELA, that means that whatever that concept or standard is, you understand it. I can ask you questions about it. You can explain it to somebody else, not just me. You can articulate it, and you can engage with that standard. That is what distinguished means. And I'm going to be honest, in the beginning of the year, you're not going to see that a lot. So parents, guardians, students, don't freak out when you don't have a whole bunch of 99s until closer to that third and fourth quarter. That's normal. That's what we should be seeing, because if everyone had 99s, you would all already have been graduating from like college. The whole point for you being in my class is to learn these skills and concepts. You shouldn't already be distinguished in them. Likewise, proficient, that means that you can confidently ride without training wheels or supervision. So when we relay that into English, it means that you understand the concepts. You couldn't necessarily teach somebody else, but you get it. It makes sense in your head. Okay. Developing, that's going to be a 79. That means you can ride without training wheels and a little bit of supervision, but you still need a little bit of help. So when we're thinking about that in the perspective of classwork, I mean, sometimes, depending on what the assignment is, you're good and you get it. And other times it's not so much. It's not consistent. All right. So you cannot consistently show me that you understand this concept. Some days it's there, some days it's not. And that means you're developing, you're working on it. All right, it's a work in progress, and that's what we all are. And then finally, we have beginning. And that means that you need supervision and training wheels, and you might just lack confidence. And that's going to be a 69. So if you are trying in my class, the lowest grade you can reasonably get is a 69, which if you only got a 69 on absolutely everything, it does round up to a 70. So nobody needs to panic. Okay. But this means that you've turned work in, but I'm not, it's I don't want to say wrong. I don't like using that word. It's incorrect. All right. So it's not showing me that you really understand that concept. All right. And here's the thing for a lot of you, do not be surprised in August, September, October, you're getting those 69s and 79s. Again, that's normal. You're just starting. You're just starting to learn that information and figure out how to utilize it. Okay. So basically, in my mind, what you should be doing is August, September is where you're probably gonna have the most 69s. October through about December is where you're gonna be seeing a lot of 79s. And then by January through about March, that's when you should be seeing a lot of 89s. Okay. Fewer 69s, mostly 89s. And then April and May, almost everyone should have a 99 in almost every standard because we spend all year on all the standards. We're not like math where you have to build off of something. We get to go back and go over and over. So argumentative writing, we do that multiple times throughout the year. It's not just a one and done. So you should be increasing and improving each time. And the only thing that you don't get points for is you didn't turn it in. So DNT, you didn't turn it in, did not turn in. Okay. That means you looked at the bike, but you never got on it. So I don't know if you can actually ride the bike really well or not. I have no way to assess that. So if you don't turn in an assignment, I have no idea if you're amazing and know everything or if you know nothing because you didn't turn it in. There's nothing for me to assess where you're at. So that will get you a grade of a 1. Okay. With this, and I spoke about this in my other video, I will update grades in Google Classrooms. And then in addition to Google Classrooms, I will also send out, usually weekly, updated grades in Track CC. So this is the assignment. This is what your student got, a 99, 79, 89, 69, all that good stuff. Okay. And I'll let you know what they got. Infinite Campus, I will not put in except every 3 weeks. All right. And what that's going to do is Infinite Campus is going to have all of our standards listed. So all the standards that we're covering for that 9 weeks. And then I will put in that grade. So if the first 3 weeks we're talking about narrative writing, then maybe if you didn't do great, narrative writing that first 3 weeks and I put those first grades in, I would put a 69, even though you've been getting weekly feedback as a parent and almost daily feedback as a student about that concept. What that means is that 6th week, when we come back, if we've done more narrative writing, and let's say you improved it and you got a 79, I would replace that grade in Infinite Campus with a 79. If we're now at the end of the 9 weeks and we've done another narrative writing thing and you've gotten an 89 and you've shown that you really understand it now, then in Infinite Campus, that would be an 89. So the goal is you start off with 69s with pretty much everything. And as we go throughout the year and we continue to learn and practice these skills, your grade increases in Infinite Campus. So just because you start at a 69 does not mean that that's what stays in Infinite Campus forever. All right. The goal is that you should be focused less on the number, less on the letter grade, and more on, do I understand this concept? Do I understand this skill? Because that's what it's about. Because if you get those skills and you get those concepts, everything after my class is going to be so much better for you. If you're going into high school, it's going to make it that much easier. If you're coming up to me for 7th and 8th grade, it's going to make it that much more manageable for you. And it'll be less stressful because you already understand those concepts. So that's kind of how that works for me. We're going to go ahead and continue here. Okay. So this also allows students, parents, myself to see kind of where students as a whole are struggling and where they need more help. And this is a way that I'm able to give students more confidence to practice skills without worrying about failing, quote unquote. Okay. So what I aim to give your student is tools and resources to be proficient at all the standards. Okay. And I do try my best, and I can't promise this all the time. I do try my best to provide explanatory videos. IXL has a bunch of good ones. I do try to put my own up sometimes, just depending on what kind of time I have after school to work on it. But if I can't create it myself, I will find somewhere else. I'll find a video somewhere else, and I will give that explanation video to your students. I am also really good at making a variation of assignments so that all student learning preferences are realized and appreciated. So if you're somebody that learns really well auditorily and you can't stand what we're doing in class that day, like it's not making sense, I'll have what I've taught available in an auditory way. Same with visual or kinesthetic. Like if you're listening to me talk and it's just like wah, 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 I will also have some type of visual aid for you, like whether it's a PowerPoint or something like that, for you to be able to read and visually understand what that concept is. And then kinesthetic, generally speaking, with every concept, as best I can, I do try to make it so that things are hands-on and that we are moving around and doing versus just sitting all the time. I also provide feedback in class on skills and behavior to students and guardians. Again, I use Track CC for behavior, grading, all of that good stuff. So that is how I will be communicating, and that is how my grades work. Okay. So for those that don't know, I am working, this is my 4th year as a doctoral candidate. So if everything goes well, I will be defending my capstone / dissertation in March of 2024 and graduating with my doctorate in May of 2024. That being said, I'm doing lots of research. So I will be using research-backed methods to help drive those standards mastery and prepare your student for the end of grade assessments in April. But I am also very flexible, and I can make adjustments along the way to meet your student where they are and to kind of pull them up to where they need to be. And then just remember, I do not do completion grades. Like it will never be a completion grade. It will always be, do you understand type of grade. All right. So again, everything will be in Google Classrooms, and I will update you on Track CC. Okay. At the end of each unit, I'll send data to you about how your student is progressing for each standard. Infinite Campus, these are the only grades that you will see. And again, those can fluctuate and change. So that's the great thing about that, is it's not a set in stone grade. It can change. So what the plan is and what the good part is that students get to practice their skills over time to increase their grade for that standard without the pressure of failing and having a 20 and having to try to bring yourself back up from having a 20 in class. I've had students that have 7s in class because they started off doing the work, they didn't do very well at it, and then just gave up and stopped doing anything. In this mode, as long as you're trying, you're not going to fail. It's impossible to fail if you're trying, because failure happens to everyone at every point in their life. And it's a skill to know how to understand failure, live in that failure, and come back from that failure with a positive outlook of how you're going to do better next time, and an understanding of what went wrong or what you didn't understand to cause that failure. So failure is not a negative in this classroom. Okay. We will have close reading assignments. We'll do some worksheets, projects, novel studies, lots of writing. But I also like to involve games and quizzes. And then we have benchmarks and exams that are required by state. We all know that. Okay, in December, we will have a unit review, and that will be graded as a test, and it will be set up in the same fashion as the end of grade test. This is so we can practice for that test, and we can talk about test anxiety and how we can get rid of test anxiety. So this is like a practice for what's coming in April. And this is this part over here is, I believe, for all of upper grades, is the weighting system. Okay. Everything else is just me. So the mastery standards, that's just me currently. But the weights of everything is definitely going to be all of upper grades, which is going to mean that we have 60% for summative, 30% for formative, and 10% for like homework and bell ringers and that kind of thing. So that's how they're going to be weighted. So now bouncing back to just me. Some assignments are going to have the same requirements for everyone. Like everyone's going to do this one assignment and it is what it is. And then there's going to be other assignments that will be given based on a student's strength or weakness. All right. So sometimes one student's going to need more help and work on something than somebody else. And sometimes they're going to need to be challenged more than someone else. So what I really need students and guardians to understand is just because everyone in the class doesn't have the exact same assignment doesn't mean that they're not all working on the same goal and that they're not all on the same difficulty level, because what's really easy for you might be really, really hard for someone else. And what's really, really hard for you might be easy for somebody else. And so my goal is to challenge everyone. Everyone should always feel challenged, but you should never, ever feel bored because you already know everything. And you should never feel frustrated because you don't understand anything. You should feel challenged where you're being pushed, but you should never, ever feel frustrated in my class. So the goal is that I want to teach in a way that directly benefits all of my students and assess them in ways that is going to be beneficial to them as well. That means having different methods of teaching, different methods of assessment, and different assignments, because one size does not fit all, and it's unfair to evaluate all the students in that way. So if you guys have ever heard the quote, you can't judge a fish on its ability to ride a bike. Because if you put a fish on a bike, it obviously can't ride a bike. It doesn't mean that it's not good at a whole host of other things. So we want to make sure that we are assessing students and helping them get where they need to be. That is my goal with that. Okay. So I do like to communicate again about behavior, all that good stuff through Track CC. And I do want to just understand that 69s are not bad, and you can always improve those scores in Infinite Campus. All right. So the goal is that we can have higher outcomes for student EOG scores, which were pretty low the last couple of years looking at the data. I want to increase your students' confidence, and I want them to have a better acquisition of skills and be able to use those skills in the future and be better prepared, not only for future ELA courses, but have the critical thinking skills that are going to help them in any class and even outside of the classroom in the real world, in the workplace. Those are the skills that I'm trying to help students with and build their confidence in academics, even if ELA is not their strong suit, even if it's their least favorite class. My goal isn't to be the favorite class. My goal is to be the class where you learn the most and you have those concepts and you remember them next year when you come back and you can say, yes, I know how to do this. I remember how to do this, because you have those skills and you have that confidence. That is my goal. So that is how my grading system works. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and contact me. You can do it through TrackCC, my phone number here, or email. All right. And I will get back to you as soon as I can. But that is a nutshell of how grading will work in my classroom. Thank you.